Hello, it's Kate from Inkstampshare.ink. I'd like to talk to you about stamping today, how to get the best image and the different types of stamps that you can actually buy. I'm obviously showing you Stampin' Up products because I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator, but I think it goes across the board really, the different types of stamps you can buy. So we in Stampin' Up do 3 different types of stamps, and I will show you exactly what they look like and what the names are and what that means. So this happens to be the Lift Me Up stamp set, and it comes in this lovely skinny case that you can put on a shelf, like a DVD case if you like. And these are what's called clear stamps, and they're not clear because they're see-through. They're clear because when you use them, you mount them onto a clear block. So this is the type of clear block that I mean. It's an acrylic block, and you put your stamp on the block. So you would put it on here and it's ready to stamp, it's ready to go. So that's your stamp, clear stamp. They're made out of red rubber and they come like this, and then you buy your acrylic blocks and they go on and off your acrylic blocks, and that's a clear stamp, not a see-through stamp, clear as in clear mount. Okay. The other ones you can get are actually clear, but these are called photopolymer, and they are see-through stamps. And the benefit of using these, also they come in this nice skinny box so you can store them, and you store lots of them and they don't take up much room. But also because they're see-through, you can actually see the positioning of the stamp better when you're stamping with them, and I'll demonstrate that to you in a moment. And you can also line them up a little bit better and do 2-step stamping. So that's the advantage. They both have their pros and cons. I like the red rubber clear mount stamps because they clean very easily. They're very robust. They stamp beautifully, but they clean really well. That's just my thing about cleaning stamps. I love the photopolymer because you can see through them, you can stamp 2-step stamping, you can position them a little bit better because you can see through them. But once you start using any red or very orange based dyes, they're quite difficult to clean. They do stain, and no matter how much you clean them, they will have a stain like this. However, it doesn't affect the use of the stamp or the functionality of the stamp. They work absolutely beautifully, so it doesn't make any difference at all. So that's those 2. Now there is another type that I never tend to buy. They take up a lot more room to store. I just have one of these at the moment, and this is the one. It's called a wood mount stamp. So it's exactly the same in that it's red rubber, but it comes with a wood mount block. So you don't have to mount it onto a block. It comes with its block. The drawback of that though is that obviously everyone comes on its own wooden block, and the cases are a lot bigger and they take up a lot more room to store, and they are harder, I find, to position because you've got the block in the way. You can never quite see where your stamp is going. Lots and lots of people prefer the wood mount. It's, as I say, it's personal preference. The thing of the wood mount and the red rubber, the clear mount stamps, they are exactly the same really. The red rubber is the same as what goes on the wooden block. You just don't get the wooden block. They come mounted on this foam pad, so there's a cushioning behind them which gives you a great image when you stamp, both in the block, the wooden block and the red rubber. The photopolymer doesn't. The photopolymer ones you mount on the clear acrylic block, but they don't have foam cushioning. They give a great image, a nice clean crisp image, but sometimes depending on the surface you are using, you need to put something underneath it to mimic that cushioning, and you can buy foam pads to do that, just to pop under your work to help that. So that's the 3 types of stamps. I hope that's not confusing. We've got photopolymer, clear mount, and the wood block stamps, and they're the 3 types that you can get. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly demonstrate those for you. So as I say, you would take out your little stamp and you made it on your block. Now you can get an awful lot of different sizes of blocks to put your stamps on. And the reasoning for that is to get the really best image that you can get, you need the correct block for the size of your stamp. The reason for that is because if you say, I thought, oh, I'll have one big block because that will do for all my purposes. If you put a little stamp in the middle of that and you ink it up, when you stamp it, it rocks around. So it blurs the image and it can smudge and make a mess. And so you really need the right size block for your stamp. So I would pick one that matches most the size of the stamp. It's obviously too big for this one, but it fits this one nicely without too much around the outside. The great thing about Stampin' Up is that when you buy a stamp set in the catalogue, it actually tells you what the correct block you might need for your stamp. So it gives you those hints there already, and the letters are on the side. This is a C block, for instance. And on the front of the box, it tells you suggested blocks, G, A and B in this case. So it always gives you those tips so you know which ones to mount it on. The wooden block stamps, when you buy them, are slightly more expensive. You've got the block included. These ones are a little bit less. And once you've bought your blocks, your acrylic blocks, they're a one-off purchase. Obviously, you only ever have to buy those once, so that's really good. Okay, so I'm going to show you how they stamp. So I've got my little balloon and I've mounted it on the clear block, and I've got a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I'll give you a few stamping tips. So you need to have it on the right size block, as I say. Okay, now when you ink up your stamp, a common mistake you find with new stampers is that they will put it onto the ink pad and they'll push it all the way down and they'll smush it and they'll rock it because they're worried about getting enough ink on there. What you'll find if you do that, you have got ink everywhere. It's all around the edge, it's all around the block, and if you then stamp with it, you're going to get your halo, this horrible mark that you really don't want. Okay, so a good tip for first-time stampers, I'll just clean it off, is that when you do it, you need a light touch, lots of tapping. You will cover your stamp with the ink, but you won't have that horrible mark all the way around. And then you just place your block down, give an even pressure and hold it for a few seconds and lift it straight back up. Oh, didn't do a good job. Let's try again. Always on video, isn't it? I was being very light. Okay, so there you go. So there's your balloon, and you don't want this halo. And equally, you don't want to rock it around. So if I show you, if you rock your stamp, this is a common thing, you'll end up with a blurry image. You see how that's quite blurry where I've rocked it. But if you just go down and up, you'll get a good image. I think I've got an air bubble under there. That can happen sometimes if you haven't got it on the block very well. There you go. You get a really crisp image. You go down and up, and that is the only trick there is to getting a really good image when you stamp. So have your stamp on the correct size block. Don't smoosh it into the ink pad, just tap gently, and then you need to go down and up with your stamping. Make sure you don't have any air bubbles when you do it, like I have. There we go, absolutely perfect once you've got it on the block properly. Okay, so that's that. I'll show you how to do it with with a photopolymer stamp. So I got some of these out already. Now the great thing about some of these little photopolymer stamps, Stampin' Up, don't miss a trick. And you'll see, let's take it off, you can see better. There's like a little arrow, bit of extra photopolymer at the top. And it shows you if you've got two-step stamping, you've got two stamps that are the same, if you do that, you can line them up. So if I know that my little arrow sits at the top on the block, like that, and I ink it up, and I keep it up that way, stamp it down, and then when I put the other one on the block, this is two-step stamping, I put my little arrow at the top as well, ink it up, line it up because it's photopolymer and I can see through, and I know that I've lined it up because I've got my arrow at the top, so the image will match, and then you have got your outline for your flower, so you have a two-step stamp. And that's the beauty of photopolymers, you can see through it and you can place it where you'd like it to go. The image is always going to be fantastic with Stampin' Up stamps, so the quality is so good. This is a similar stamp. I like this image. That's a little rose. Oops. Okay. And I can actually two-step stamp the little rose as well because there's a solid to go in there. So if we keep our little arrow at the top, and we can give it kind of like a watercolour effect, like so. How pretty is that? Love it, love it, love it. Stamping never gets old for me. I love it. So that's the difference between a photopolymer stamp and a clear mount stamp. Okay, the same idea as you use the right size block for the right size stamp. This is my only wooden block stamp that I own at the moment. Now it's an odd shape, it's quite long, this one, and sometimes you get very big stamps, and so the tip I would give you for those kind of stamps is if you take your stamp to your block, you're never going to see if you've covered that big stamp up properly with ink. So I always take my ink to my stamp, like so, instead of the other way around. And then I can see that it's covered in ink properly. Okay, and then I'm going to pop it on my piece of scrap cardstock that we're playing with. Give it a minute, a few seconds to absorb the ink, and there we are. It's a lovely image. Okay, so good cushioning because we've got the foam along here. Right, that's all there is really for me to say about simple stamping tips. Don't rock your stamps and don't squish it into the ink pad, and you should get really good image each time. Now, care of your stamps. Baby wipes, I don't like to use baby wipes at all. Everyone has their own personal preference, but I find using baby wipes leaves me in a mess, transfers the ink sometimes to my card, but more importantly, when you're rubbing a baby wipe over your stamp, especially with the intricate ones, you'll find it leaves, after a while, little white fibres. Actually, quite quickly it leaves the little white fibres. And then you get these tiny fibres, you ink it up, you stamp your image, and you've got these little fibres that have been stamped as well, and it makes a mess. So I use a stamping scrub, and I love my stamping scrub. In fact, I've got a couple of these, and I use them because I'm stamping all the time, and it's just there, it's really handy, and I don't have to have baby wipes making a mess everywhere. So I've got the stamping mist that comes that you can buy to go with it. Give it a good squirt. It's got two sides. Okay, this has got little raindrops on it, so it shows you which side to spray, and this is the dry side. Now these clean and condition your stamps, and you know what, I pay enough for my stamps, I want to look after them. And so yeah, you just take your stamp, you wipe it on the wet side, and then you dry it, and your stamp will come lovely and clean, like so, and it conditions the rubber. Now you can see the white fibres along here where I've had people with baby wipes at my stamps. I do use them sometimes when I'm in a pinch, so you know, but generally I use my Stampin' Scrub, and it's invaluable, and I just keep it on my desk and it's there. And when you want to, when it gets a bit covered in ink, you just rinse it under the tap and it all comes out. So I have to say, if there's a few things that you know, break, and would I replace them? This is definitely one of them. It's worth its weight, this Stampin' Scrub. It's absolutely brilliant, time and time again. So yeah, that one was a bit mucky. I think I'd use StazOn that. So some quick tips. I hope that's helped you learn a little bit about basic stamping and about how to maintain and look after your stamps. I'll give you a little sneaky peek. This card I've just made, and I used 2 different types of stamps with this one. I used this one, which we were demonstrating the little flowers from. It's called Happy Birthday Gorgeous, and I used the balloons from it. I used the Hip Hip Hooray and the little classic label there for this, and I punched those out because there are matching punches. Ingenious, I know. Matching punches for the balloons and for the label. Perfect, makes everything easy. So I used those for that one, and then for the inside I used this one, the Lift Me Up one, and for the clouds. So there's the cloud there, and I stamped inside Hope Your Birthday's on Cloud 9, and I've used a little bit of this Sparkly Wink of Stella pen as well, just to give it a bit of sparkle. So you know, you can combine whatever stamps you've got really to make a pretty card. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more of my tips and techniques. If you want to have a look on my blog, it's inkstampshare.ink, and if you would like to browse or shop any of the products, my shop is katebolt.stampinup.net. Thanks for stopping by.